Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are cracking open the vault on a Hollywood figure whose work is consistently raw, often controversial, and, well, always unforgettable. This is a deep dive into the vision, the strategy, and the absolutely chaotic, brilliant career of Lee Daniels.
Daniels is perhaps the ultimate case study in Hollywood reinvention and strategic pivoting. The stack of sources you've shared gives us a really complete picture of a journey that it just doesn't follow the traditional roadmap at all. We're talking about a man who went from running a medical nursing agency, specializing in the HIV/AIDS crisis, no less, to becoming an Oscar-nominated director and sort of simultaneously a titan of network television.
Right. That transition is exactly what we're here to synthesize. Our mission today is, to connect those seemingly disparate parts of his life, the social worker, the street-smart businessman, the casting director, and the auteur. We need to highlight how these shocking transitions didn't just happen by luck, but how they reveal this singular focus, bringing marginalized, really intense human stories, regardless of how painful they are, into the biggest spotlight possible.
Yeah, the big picture of Daniels' work is his expert use of visibility. He forces the mainstream to confront narratives that are often intentionally kept in the dark stories of addiction, abuse, sexuality, race. By exploring his diverse roles, producer, director, talent manager, content executive, we can truly understand the influence he wields today.
Yeah.
It allows him to jump almost effortlessly between gritty, independent film projects and these massive, multi-million-dollar streaming deals.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the very beginning, laying the foundational pavement for his complex career. Lee Louis Daniels was born in West Philadelphia, December 24th, 1959, eldest son of Clara Mae Watson and William Louis Daniels. And right from the start, his life was marked by incredible personal tragedy, but also balanced with this need for, acute resourcefulness.
That tragedy came in 1975. His father, William Louis Daniels, a police officer, was killed in the line of duty. Lee was just 15 years old. I mean, this is an immense, pivotal, emotional trauma. And, many critics and commentators have noted how the intense, often brutal examinations of fractured family dynamics, of early death in his later filmography, seem directly informed by this loss. It's a pain he carries into his art, it seems.
And the resourcefulness, that strategic ambition we see later in his business career, it's evident right there in how he navigated his own education. His family certainly didn't live in the affluent suburbs, but his mother was absolutely determined that he attend Radnor High School. The notes here detail this incredible maneuver designed purely to gain access.
Oh, it's a brilliant anecdote. Really defines his early character, doesn't it? To get him into that public school system, his mother arranged for a neighbor who worked as a butler for the owner of the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team to let them use that owner's address in Radnor. This wasn't about privilege, it was a calculated move. Securing a better future by sort of navigating existing socioeconomic loopholes, he learned early that access sometimes requires unconventional means.
So he graduated from Radnor in '78, then attended Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri for a bit.
Right.
But Hollywood beckoned. And this is where we see the first major, really shocking career turn. A far cry from the movie business.
Absolutely. When he moved to Hollywood, he didn't start, shadowing directors or anything. He started as a receptionist in a nursing agency. What's truly remarkable, though, is how quickly he leveraged that experience. He recognized this massive unmet need in the healthcare system and started his own agency. And this wasn't just general care either. Daniels' agency specialized specifically in HIV/AIDS treatment.
Wow. And if you think about the historical context, the early 1980s, that was the absolute height of the AIDS crisis, a period just defined by fear, stigma, and a desperate lack of institutional support. Daniels was running a specialized business right at the epicenter of this public health emergency.
Exactly. And this period is just crucial for understanding maybe the moral foundation of his later work. He was literally on the front lines dealing with deeply marginalized populations facing not just illness, but social judgment, systemic neglect. Later in life, he'd speak very publicly, very emotionally about this time, noting the personal toll it took. This work taught him empathy, resilience, and frankly, complex high-stakes management skills. All assets he would transpose onto a film set later. He was dealing with life and death before he was dealing with box office numbers.
And then the ultimate pivot. How did he move from medical logistics, patient care, to talent management?
Well, he sold the nursing agency, having, maximized his efforts there. The pivot to Hollywood was apparently facilitated by a chance meeting with the producer. He used the capital, the organizational skills he'd gained, and just funneled that into a completely different field, casting and talent management. He possessed the fundamental skill he needed, recognizing and handling sensitive, maybe high-wire talent.
And he wasn't just a low-level assistant in this new phase either. I mean, the sources say he was involved in massive projects very early on, casting director on Prince films like Purple Rain and Under the Cherry Moon.
Right. Those credits alone confirm his immediate access to the highest levels of the entertainment industry. Plus, the source notes his management work with actor Wes Bentley, who became famous as Ricky Fitz in American Beauty. Daniels is actually featured in that documentary My Big Break, where he reflects on Bentley's early struggles with the instant, overwhelming nature of fame and his reluctance to capitalize on it.
So his early education wasn't film school. It was the brutal reality of the AIDS crisis and the equally brutal reality of managing fragile, magnetic celebrity talent.
Exactly. That combination taught him how to spot raw power in a person, whether it's an actor or a character, and how to package and present deeply challenging material to the public. That casting and management foundation, you could argue, is the invisible backbone of his directing career.
Okay, so the knowledge he gained in those early years really exploded onto the scene in the 2000s. This marks the start of Section 2. His emergence as a defining producer and pioneer. His production debut, Monsters Ball in 2001, wasn't just successful, it was an industry landmark.
It really was. The debut production of Lee Daniels Entertainment, and it set an immediate precedent for the kind of dark, controversial, fiercely acted drama that would define his brand. The film, of course, led to Halle Berry winning the Academy Award for Best Actress, and this is where that landmark achievement comes in. Daniels became the first African-American film producer to solely produce an Oscar-winning film.
That detail, solely produces, is so critical. In a system often defined by co-productions, where white-lid studios often take primary credit, this was a moment of true, unequivocal authorship and acknowledgement for a black producer. It broke a significant barrier.
Yeah, it confirmed his place as an undesirable force. But here's the profound twist, and maybe the most personal insight into Daniels himself. Despite this monumental, historic success, he did not attend the Oscars ceremony.
That revelation, which came out during an emotional MSNBC interview in 2019, it's just fascinating. Why would he miss the single biggest night of his professional life up to that point?
He spoke very candidly about it, admitted he was struggling severely with addiction at the time, and crucially, he also confessed to this crippling lack of self-worth, a struggle over whether he felt he deserved to attend that monumental event. He believed at that moment that he wasn't worthy of the success he had earned. It just paints a picture of success being layered with intense internal conflict. It suggests the darkness and trauma he explores in his films are perhaps mirrors of his own experiences.
It makes his subsequent focus on marginalized, often broken characters even more understandable. He continued that pattern of serious, award-contending drama with The Woodsman in 2004, starring Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick.
Yeah, The Woodsman confirmed his reputation wasn't a fluke. Premiered at Sundance, immediately got serious critical attention, 3 nominations at the 2005 Independent Spirit Awards. But beyond the domestic praise, it also won the prestigious CK Art House Prize at Cannes and received a special mention for excellence in filmmaking from the National Board of Review. This showed he could spot high-quality, international-level artistic content that resonated across global festivals.
And as his production profile rose, he started leveraging that influence for direct social action, right? Getting back to his roots in activism.
Absolutely. The source notes a key interception in March 2004. Former President Bill Clinton personally persuaded Daniels to produce public service announcements. These PSAs were specifically aimed at encouraging young people of color to vote, featuring major Grammy winners like LL Cool J and Alicia Keys. It shows he viewed his success as a platform, not just, a personal achievement.
Then, in 2005, he decided to take the risk, make the leap to the director's chair with Shadowboxer. Moving from producer managing budget, logistics, to director managing the artistic vision, that's a huge change.
It is a massive shift in responsibility, and he went big immediately. Shadowboxer featured this staggering ensemble cast: Helen Mirren, Cuba Gooding Jr., Monique, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's an immediate sign that Hollywood trusted his ability to manage big names, a skill he honed during his management days. Now, while the film was critically divisive, it has a pretty low score, actually. It did debut at the Toronto International Film Festival and earned him a nomination for Best New Director at the San Sebastian Film Festival. It proved he had officially arrived as an auteur, even if not everyone loved the result.
We should also briefly touch on the production Tennessee in 2008. Follows 2 brothers searching for their estranged father.
Yeah, the main importance of Tennessee, looking back, is probably its casting. It marked the introduction of Mariah Carey in a dramatic role as Crystal, an aspiring singer. Daniels clearly had a knack for finding this hidden dramatic depth in music stars. This predated his work on Precious with her, and certainly laid some groundwork for his massive television successes later, where musical talent would be absolutely central.
Okay, moving into Section 3, we hit the years 2009 to 2014, the period of his undeniable defining breakthrough. If Monsters Ball was the historic success, the cultural force that was Precious in 2009 was, well, the career definer.
Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire. Yeah, it cemented the Lee Daniels brand of unflinching, harsh realism, but with a surprising capacity for popular appeal. The premise alone is just gut-wrenching. The story of an obese, illiterate 16-year-old girl, played by Gabourey Sidibe, enduring horrific, systemic physical, sexual, and emotional abuse from her mother, played by Monique, in 1980s Harlem.
Not an easy film to watch, by any stretch, but it completely dominated the critical conversation that year.
It truly did. Created a firestorm of discussion after screening at Sundance. It maintained a stunning 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is incredibly high for material this difficult. But maybe more importantly for Daniels' trajectory, it proved his artistic vision could be financially viable. Grossed $63 million worldwide against a very modest $10 million budget. I mean, that's the ultimate proof of concept, an uncompromising artistic vision that's also a commercial powerhouse.
And the Academy couldn't ignore it. Daniels himself nominated for Best Director, the film for Best Picture. And Monique, of course, took home the statue for Best Supporting Actress.
That success was recognized across the board. He won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Director, the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Directing, showing both the indie film community and Black arts organizations recognize the power of his work. Precious just cemented his reputation as a director willing to dive into the darkest human experiences and emerge with both critical validation and commercial success.
What's fascinating, though, is what he chose to do immediately following that global success. Instead of, say, another prestige historical drama, he directed the deeply polarizing film The Paperboy in 2012.
Classic Daniels' strategic move, right? He deliberately avoids repetition. The Paperboy, based on a novel, was this eccentric Southern Gothic noir, stars Matthew McConaughey, Zac Efron, Nicole Kidman. Daniels not only directed but also co-wrote the script, and it competed for the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which confirms its artistic ambition.
Yet the critical reception was utterly divided. It sits at, what, 45% on Rotten Tomatoes? If you've just come off a 92% certified fresh hit, why chase such a divisive, eccentric project? Seems like it risks your newly established prestige.
Because the goal isn't necessarily consensus, I think. The goal is creating visibility and challenging expectations. Critics found his direction heavily stylized, leaning into excess melodrama. He took a genre film and amplified its most shocking elements. This tells us he values artistic freedom, maximal impact, over critical comfort. He's an auteur who wants you to feel something, even if that feeling is disgust or confusion. That approach takes courage, sure, but it also creates this interesting tension in his overall filmography.
He quickly followed that divisive project, though, with a monumental commercial triumph. The Butler in 2013. This time, back in the prestige, accessible historical drama space.
Lee Daniels' The Butler, yeah, a massive scale film, showcased his capacity to manage grand narrative structures. A gigantic ensemble cast Forrest Whitaker, Oprah Winfrey, Alan Rickman, Terrence Howard. I mean, the list goes on. Commercially, it was a blockbuster. Grossed well over $100 million in the United States against a relatively moderate $30 million budget. Huge return.
And the critical response was solid, though maybe a little mixed.
Yeah.
Landed at 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. So this entire period really shows his strategic range. He can deliver the harsh, uncompromising indie film like Precious, the polarizing art house experiment like The Paperboy, and the mainstream star-studded historical epic like The Butler. He proved he could access pretty much any audience.
And that ability to access and maybe manipulate the mainstream audience is precisely why he made the transition to television mogul. Which brings us to Section 4, defining his current status in the industry. Starting in 2015, Daniels completely redefined his career again with the Fox series Empire.
Right. Oh, Empire. It wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural earthquake. Dominated conversation, ratings, everything for years. Co-created and co-written by Daniels with his The Butler screenwriter, Danny Strong. It was this high-stakes music industry melodrama starring Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson.
Daniels directed and co-wrote the pilot episode himself, setting that high-octane, visually excessive tone. The show succeeded, I think, because it blended the melodramatic plotting of a primetime soap opera with the glamour and intensity of the music business, all while tackling themes of race, class, sexuality that Daniels had been exploring in film for years. It proved his cinematic sensibility could translate into a format built for weekly viewership. And how?
The speed of its success was just staggering. It wasn't a slow burn. It was an immediate phenomenon. Ran for 5 successful years, 2015 to 2020.
And he immediately leveraged that success, of course. Co-created and co-executive produced the follow-up series, Star, another music-focused show ran from 2016 to 2019. This established that his success wasn't dependent on a single character or cast. He developed a formula, a production system, that consistently delivered high-value entertainment focused on the world of Black music and high drama.
This consistency is why he's now one of the most powerful content executives in the business. Let's look at the business end of his empire for a second.
Right, the strategic importance of his deals really cannot be overstated. In May 2021, Lee Daniels Entertainment extended its overall deal with 20th Television. And 20th Television is a key subsidiary under the massive Disney umbrella. This positions him not just as a filmmaker who occasionally works in TV, but as a massive, reliable content provider tied to one of the largest media conglomerates globally.
And his market worth is quantified in the streaming wars too, right?
Yeah.
We have details on the astonishing price tag attached to his upcoming projects.
Oh yeah, the market has spoken loudly. January 2022, Netflix won this
$65 million plus. For a horror project, directed by a man best known for brutal dramas like Precious and historical epics like The Butler. It just demonstrates the market's belief in his ability to attract both A-list talent and massive audiences, regardless of genre. I mean, the cast alone, Andra Day, Octavia Spencer, Glenn Close, kind of justifies the price tag.
It also confirms his commitment to genre exploration, just like The Paperboy, right?
Right.
He's taking the horror genre and imbuing it with his signature intense dramatic weight. And furthermore, he's expanding his prestige projects through streaming, too. It was announced April 2022 he'll develop and direct a limited series based on the complex, turbulent life of Sammy Davis Jr. for 20th Television and Hulu. Elijah Kelly set to star.
So the combination of these projects, genre film, historical biography, ongoing television production, it shows he has mastered operating across every major platform simultaneously, maintaining this consistent output of high-stakes, star-driven content, including his recent films The United States vs. Billie Holiday in 2021 and the upcoming The Deliverance in 2024. Plus, he produced Concrete Cowboy in 2020, showing his reach into indie coming-of-age stories too.
Okay, now that we've charted the professional peaks and pivots, let's shift to Section 5, focusing on the core of his public identity, his lifelong activism, his perspective on identity, and how he has managed significant public controversy.
His identity as an activist isn't a recent development. It's rooted right back in his early work in that nursing agency. In 2018, AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research, paid this powerful tribute to him at their annual gala. Queen Latifah presented him with the AMFAR Award of Courage.
Yeah, that moment was deeply reflective, connecting his past work with his current platform. Latifah specifically acknowledged his time spent working with HIV/AIDS patients and praised him for his artistic contribution, noting that he created unfailingly human characters who were striving to rise above difficult circumstances. That legacy of care and visibility, it's just inextricably linked.
His acceptance speech was incredibly emotional, apparently. Not just a thank you, it was a raw personal reflection on the human cost of the crisis that shaped him.
He spoke directly about the generation lost to AIDS, revealing that the crisis had taken at least 40 of his personal friends. 40! That number just gives you a sense of the immense personal trauma he carried forward from the 80s and 90s. It reinforces why he is consistently driven to give voice and visibility to those who have suffered or been silenced.
And beyond his AIDS advocacy, he's received broad recognition for his professional stature. 2016, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, specifically for his contributions to television.
And he actively engages in discussions around civil rights and identity, listed as a runner-up for the Advocate's Person of the Year in 2015. Participated prominently in the Human Rights Campaign video tribute to the victims of the Orlando nightclub shooting in 2016. He uses his voice deliberately in moments of crisis.
On a personal level, Daniels is openly gay, lives in Manhattan. The sources give this lovely detail about his family life. He and his then-partner, casting director Billy Hopkins, adopted Daniels' biological niece and nephew, Clara and Liam. Speaks to his ability to blend personal and professional relationships and maybe redefine what family means.
He also instigated a really profound public discussion about identity when Empire was at its peak. In 2015, he addressed the complexity of identity by stating that both he and Empire actor Jussie Smollett are sexually fluid, despite identifying as gay men.
That was a compelling moment in mainstream media, wasn't it? Pushing back against rigid definitions of sexuality that many people still hold. He explained his viewpoint quite beautifully.
He articulated that attraction is often based on spiritual or energetic connection rather than just gender. He explained, and I'm quoting here, "It's not necessarily the body one is attracted to. You can be sexually attracted to the spirit, the energy, the life force in another person." This perspective directly informed the nuanced characters he created, refusing to apologize for their complexity or, fit them into easily digestible boxes for a network TV audience.
Now, we do have to address the major public controversy from this period, the highly publicized defamation lawsuit filed by Sean Penn. And we need to report this neutrally, sticking only to the facts provided in the source material.
Right. The controversy stems from a September 2015 Rolling Stone interview. Daniels was asked about Empire star Terrence Howard's documented history of domestic violence. In attempting to maybe defend or rationalize Howard's difficult personal history, Daniels drew a comparison.
He specifically called Howard a poor boy who ain't done nothing different than Marlon Brando or Sean Penn. That comment immediately linked to highly visible actors who have faced public scrutiny regarding their behavior.
Exactly. And a week later, Sean Penn filed a significant $10 million defamation lawsuit against Daniels. Penn's legal team argued that Daniels falsely and negligently equated Penn with Howard, emphasizing that Penn, unlike Howard, had never been arrested, much less convicted, for domestic violence. They asserted this comparison was highly damaging to Penn's public and professional reputation.
The situation was resolved fairly quickly, though. May 2016, Penn dropped the lawsuit after Daniels issued a public retraction of his statement and offered an apology. This incident provides a very sharp, clear illustration of the immense legal and financial scrutiny that major creators face when they attempt to rationalize the difficult or violent behavior of their professional colleagues in the public sphere. So when we look at the full panorama of Lee Daniels' career, from the back office of a nursing agency to the director's chair at Netflix, what does this all truly mean for his legacy?
Well, we're left with a career defined by these two warring forces almost. Intense critical division versus undeniable commercial and cultural success. On one hand, he's a storied filmmaker, first African-American solely producing an Oscar winner, a Best Director nominee. But his critical scores often bounce wildly. You've got the soaring 92% for Precious, but then films like Shadowboxer landing in the teens. His recent horror output has also been met with pretty mixed results.
His impact, however, seems always to transcend the specific critical rating. He's not necessarily seeking that middle ground acceptance that earns high 80 scores. He's seeking the visceral reaction, the conversation, the visibility.
Precisely. His career is essentially built on these two massive strategic poles that he operates simultaneously.
Sure.
There's the gritty, uncompromising auteur breaking barriers in independent cinema, specializing in painful, sometimes exploitative realism. And then there's the powerhouse content creator dominating mainstream television and streaming, securing those massive multi-million-dollar deals, drawing immense star power. His ability to master both lanes is pretty unique.
And he's a survivor, right? He transitioned from personal tragedy in youth to the front lines of the devastating AIDS crisis to his own personal struggles with addiction and self-worth, all while continuously creating demanding, unflinching content. He always finds a way to channel that difficulty into his art.
Yeah, that ability to turn trauma into visibility and then turn visibility into a commercial empire, that's his legacy.
Yeah.
He's the person who gave the world one of the most brutal indie films ever made and one of the biggest network TV hits of the last decade. It forces us to reconsider how we judge artistic success in the 21st century.
So, given Daniels' history of making these intensely personal, often dark stories about abuse and difficult circumstances, how does his ability to achieve massive commercial success in both film and TV, despite often challenging critical reviews, redefine what we consider successful filmmaking in the modern era? Does his unique style, that highly charged melodrama, inherently resist traditional critical assessment, prioritizing cultural conversation and audience engagement above all else? That is the fascinating, provocative question his journey compels you, the listener, to consider.